Welcome to the first meeting of the Team for a Common Vision of the Ellensburg Middle School. My name is Linda Waters. I am a certified mediator and facilitator. I provide conflict resolution and communication services throughout Washington State. And I am based in Ellensburg. I have lived here for almost 20 years. And so I know some of you, and so I'm part of this community. So I know something about the middle school issue. I've heard some stuff about that. So I commend you for the courage and the perseverance to give this another try on behalf of the community. So thank you for being here. We'll have plenty of time to talk throughout the next 4 months, but thank you for giving it a try here. There are lots of introductory material for this meeting. So please feel free to refer to the materials in your binder as we go along. And for the observers, we've tried to put some of the material on sheets. This was not the room that we were hoping for, and so there's a little bit of, we're punting, basically, about that. So if you have questions about that, I'm sure we can get some information for you. First of all, why are we here? And I think I'm going to sit down because it's a small room and you can all hear me. First of all, why are we here? The purpose of this team is to seek a common vision for the Ellensburg Middle School. The team in its meetings, yes, did you have a question? Oh, do I need that? Okay. They're a manifestation of the Ellensburg School District's board's commitment to expanding communication and increasing input into school district matters. This group is the next and hopefully last step in a line of many groups that have worked on the middle school issue. Yes, the team members have been handpicked by the board, by the school board, and that was to try to ensure inclusion of the widest possible range of voices and viewpoints expressed in the community. 2 spots were even intentionally left open to allow applicants to apply for this team in order to include perspectives and interested parties that the school board may not have included. The process that the team will follow to make decisions is consensus. This will provide the best chance of including the fundamental interests of all in the eventual solution. So what is meant by consensus? For this team, the definition of consensus is that it is a decision-making process that seeks to obtain the consent of all participants to the process, to the decision, by meeting their fundamental needs. A consensus decision is an acceptable resolution to an issue that some participants may not feel is the best decision, but which they can live with, support, and commit themselves to not undermine. This definition for the team members is in your books. It's also someplace, it's right up there for those of you who are observing. So we can refer back to that as time goes on. We'll talk more about that in later meetings when there will be time for discussion. We'll go into consensus a bit more. So that's some of what the team is. One of the things this team is not is just another incarnation of the Strategic Planning Facilities Committee, or SPFC, which is really hard to say 3 times fast. The SPFC and other groups met many times, and that input is valued. They did a lot of work. This team will build on the work of that committee, the school board's work over the past almost 20 years, as well as the Modernize Our Morgan group, the Cost Transparency Committee, the community forums moderated by Steve Verhey and Marlene Pfeiffer, and other informal community discussions. This group is explicitly inclusive of a broad spectrum of individuals who expressed opinion one way or another, and organizations that have met. This group, in contrast to the SBFC, is explicitly working to reach consensus rather than using majority rule. Any solutions proposed will be arrived at through agreement by all. So this is going to take some time, which we have. So I told you who I am. So why am I here? I am a process facilitator. That is, I will guide and monitor the how of the team so that all team members can focus more effectively on the what and the why of whatever issues are at hand, actually. Because transparency is important to me, I want to clarify that though I do live in Ellensburg and therefore am a stakeholder in this issue, my role here is as a neutral facilitator. I will not add content, I will simply record it. My personal and professional interest is to help the team reach the best possible solution through consensus. For those of you who read the Daily Record letters to the editor, again, in the interest of transparency, I am married to Ted Hansen. If you don't read them, don't worry about that. We don't agree on everything. So the specifics of what this team is here to do is covered in the charge from the school board. That's also in your binders, and it is also in several sheets here around the room. And Michelle Bibich will introduce that soon, later on in the meeting. Again, to clarify, this is a team meeting held in public and is open to observers. There will be a brief period for public comment at around 8 o'clock, but there are also cards available on the seats for anyone that would like to write comments or questions or suggestions or commendations for the team for being here. If you'd rather not speak or can't wait till 8 o'clock, that's another option for you. The meeting is also being filmed for broadcast being filmed to be made available for viewing on the Ellensburg School District website and Facebook page. And I'm not sure of those addresses. If you have any questions about that, come to me and I will find out. Or go to somebody that you know knows. I also want to let you know that the school board will take the recommendations of this team very seriously. However, legally, the final decision is up to the board. So there are a couple of school board members on this team as well. We can go into that later. The agenda, which is also in your books, was preset this time just to get us started. But the team will set future agendas in collaboration with me. There will be time at the end of this meeting to set the agenda for the next meeting. So I'd like to just take a moment and go through the agenda items. So if you could pull those up on your in your book. And did that one get up? It did not get up. So the agenda, I'll just say them out loud. After my comments here, each of the team members will have a chance to introduce themselves. After that, I will speak some about the ground rules for the team meetings. After that, Michelle Bibich will present and clarify the charge from the school board. And then there will be just a short discussion about the schedule of meetings for this team. Although we're meeting on a Tuesday night, generally the meetings will be on Wednesday nights. After that, there'll be a short break, about 10 minutes, and we'll come back and have a round robin again of the team members to begin just briefly to share views that people have around the middle school issue. We'll have a period of time to do that, and then about 8 o'clock, any observers that would like to make comments are free to do that, or I will read any comments that have been written on the cards. After that, there will be before we close the meeting, there will be a review of the meeting and setting of the agenda for the next meeting. At 8:30, the meeting will end. Are there any questions about the agenda? Okay. There we go. And are there any team members unwilling to move ahead with the meeting according to this agenda? Great, excellent. All right, introduction of team meetings. This is when I get to shut up for a little while. This is a time for everyone on the team to introduce yourselves. I would ask that you say your name, your full name perhaps, and how you like to be addressed. Your first name or a nickname perhaps, or a title if you prefer that. So your name, your primary connection to the Ellensburg Middle School issue. For example, you're a parent, you're a student at the middle school, you're an involved citizen, you're on the board, on the school board, etc., that sort of thing. And then I would ask that you share one thing that needs to happen during this meeting for you to consider the time well spent. It's going to be 3 hours, so let us know what it is that needs to happen in here in order for you to consider that time well spent. Another way of looking at it is what's one thing you expect to gain from this meeting. Okay, so Mike, I believe Mike, you will be needing to leave at 6 o'clock. Yep. So if we could start with you and go around that way and come back here.
And I'll apologize early for having to leave early. I had something committed to already. I'm Mike McCloskey. I'm a teacher at Morgan Middle School, and you can call me Mike. And my connection is I'm a teacher. I would hope that at the end of this meeting, although I won't be here for it, that we can start building some trust, because I believe that's one of the greatest issues facing us.
I'm Marlene Pfeiffer. Marlene is how I'd like to be addressed. I was on the facilitating committee. I don't know what we called ourselves, Steve.
I think we called ourselves the Ad Hoc Middle School Interest Group.
Okay, so which way?
You're the one who named it. You should. It's a Steve and Marlene show.
Anyway, I was trying to think of what I would like to accomplish. I like that trust and just hopefully open communication.
My name's Ernie Patty. I was over in the west side. I was a commercial real estate broker and property developer. Developed office buildings, warehouses, commercial buildings. I moved over here in '96. And my primary concern is that we're not just cover for a board, and we actually, what we're going to come up with actually amounts to something that they're seriously going to consider. I've read one particular article that puzzled me in the paper last week by a couple of the school board members, not you, Meg, and where they were wondering if this particular common vision area was going to undermine their authority. Furthermore,
And Ernie, I'm just, as part of my role, I'm going to stop you here, and you'll have plenty of time to share more of that in the round robin.
That's my concern.
Okay, and so is there anything that you would like to have happen in this particular meeting that you would consider?
I'd like to have some confirmation that shouldn't be a concern.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm Meg Ludlam, Meg, newest member of the school board, following this issue closely for some time, and my hope is modest, just that we have an introduction to one another in the issue, with everybody speaking and listening respectfully to each other.
I'm Audrey Paycheck. I just graduated as an 8th grader, so I've been at Morgan for 3 years. And you can call me Audrey. I want to understand what we're going to accomplish and what our goal is for this team.
I'm Allison Carpenter. I'm the mom of 2 kids, one who just graduated, and I'm a teacher at Morgan Middle School and married to a farmer / real estate man, so kind of they're all in one family. I've worked heavily on the last, well, not I've worked as hard as I could, had time for in the last few bonds, and I would like a sense of optimism that we can pass some form of a new middle school.
My name is Scott Rollins. I'm a local State Farm guy. The failure of the last bond election, some friends and I got together. I got to be honest, I was embarrassed to be part of Ellensburg that would fail so many attempts. So we decided to do something about it, and we've been playing with some options. And today I'm an open book. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to do. Today, I think the only thing I would add is I hope we can develop an accurate timeline that we can work backwards from a goal to some benchmarks along the way, and instead of coming here and just mire ourselves, stay on track and do something and get this thing done.
My name is Molly Edson, and I've been involved in city government, and I've had 5 kids go through the Ellensburg School System, and I also served on the last strategic committee. And I guess my hope for this meeting and all is, I think Scott said it perfectly, that we would be open books, and let's start this over and not have agendas and really listen to one another and come up with something that the voters of Ellensburg, or the district, will pass.
I'm Dorothy Casera. Dorothy. What I'm really after is to protect those that don't have a lot of money or whatever. I voted against all the bonds. And I was afraid when I came here, this was just an agenda to push forth more of the same, and I don't believe it is. So I feel like I've accomplished something which I've meant to.
Is there anything particular in this meeting that you would like to see happen?
Well, I'm hoping that we can figure out what's necessary and not overdo it, like 2 theaters and 3 gymnasiums for a middle school. There are other things that, but I have people that are concerned, that I know that are concerned. They're having trouble making their ends meet. I managed to keep myself financially above the waters, and I would like to see some, not necessarily curtailing. I would like to see a little bit more realization that every dollar that's put into the bond issue, if it passes, is going to have to be paid back multiple times.
So we'll have, I'm going to interrupt you as well.
Yes,
So thank you for sharing that part. We'll have more time later for sharing more. We have lots of time, not very much in this meeting, but we will have lots of meetings for that. So thank you for that. So what is it that you would like to have in this meeting?
My name is Tor Blaisdell, just call me Tor. I'm a professional opera singer. I'm a musician, 25 years, and moved to Ellensburg when my wife started teaching here at the university. My son went to Morgan, and my daughter is going to be a 5th grader next year, so she'll be starting Morgan. That means a lot to us. And I would say in terms of tonight, I would just like a little more clarification. It seems like such a contentious issue, and it seems like it's been very difficult to reach consensus. So I would like some clarification about how we're going to achieve that, as opposed to, 70-30 or 80-20, whatever, but actual consensus as defined. That's it. That's all.
My name is Lauren Kutzinger. I'm a parent of a son that's in college now, but went through kindergarten to 12 in Ellensburg schools. I'm a retired faculty member from Central Washington University in anthropology. Call me Lauren. And I would like to finish tonight by knowing much more, as much as possible about the process by which we'll operate on this team. If it's something about the structure, I think other people have said this in a little different way, the structure of our meetings and what items will be in that process. Actually, I don't know, no, that won't happen tonight. But anyways, and as much as we can about getting to the process so that next time when we meet, we'll have a better idea of the process we can follow.
Well, I'm Dick Woodine, and I'm one of those school board members, one of the oldest ones, I guess. I'm the oldest school board. Since I was on the board when the bond passed, built the high school and the first bond for the middle school and the last bond. And my hope tonight is that I'm going to sit here and listen and choose three things. Listen, start developing, building the trust issues, building the trust amongst yourselves, and most importantly, I think it's the relationships that we start developing as a team and resolving the school issue.
All right, I'm Michelle Vivich, Home Michelle. I'm the principal at Morgan Middle School, so have a, much like others who get to spend our days there, a very, very deep interest in finding some way to resolve this. By the end of tonight, I really want to be able to walk away knowing that everybody around this table is willing to work for a solution for the middle school and recognizing that what we're in right now is absolutely unacceptable. And so that's my hope for tonight.
My name's Steve Verhey. As Marlene said, she and I organized a series of public meetings after the most recent bond failed. And the Cost Transparency Committee organized itself out of that series of meetings and produced a report that I think is a good contribution. My daughter Molly enjoyed her time at Morgan. Two of her favorite teachers are members of this committee. She just finished her first year in college. I've already gotten what I wanted to see out of this meeting, which is that it's happening. I really want to congratulate and thank the new school board and the superintendent for reaching out to the community like this, and I really have high hopes for this process.
I'm Paul Ferris, and call me Paul. I'm the superintendent of the school district, and I've had conversations probably with just about everyone here regarding Morgan Middle School, and I'm glad to see such a diverse group of thoughts coming together. I really feel as if we can come together on a solution, I believe the community will come together.
What about tonight?
Tonight, I just will ask that everybody come back next time. You're willing to see this through.
I'm Jimmy Applegate. Jimmy, what I would hope we accomplish tonight is to get acquainted. That's the first step and the crucial step I think we must take in reaching consensus. So my hope for tonight, my desire for tonight, is that we all get better acquainted with each other.
My name is Darren Wright. I go by Darren. I'm in law enforcement. I'm also a reserve firefighter for Contest Valley Fire and Rescue, so I do kind of the emergency services side. I've been in the county for almost 25 years now. I had two children that went through the schools that both graduated now. I was a former parent group president at Morgan Middle School back when my youngest, I think one of my daughters were there. So my hope tonight was just to get to see who's on the board, what the direction is, and I like the consensus idea, so just open to where we go.
Okay. See you next Wednesday.
Yes, sorry, it's fine.
Okay, So that's the start. Over 4 months, we're going to get to know each other pretty well, I suspect. I hope. So I just want to say a little bit. We'll come back to these things, but we'll look at them again at the end of the meeting and see where we ended up with where we're starting, where we would like. So ground rules is what we get to talk about next. One of my faves. The ground rules are basically the agreement within the team and others in the room about how we will conduct ourselves during the meetings. They're very important in my experience, and taking time up front to get these, get agreement on these will save us much time down the road. I have suggested 8 ground rules for this initial meeting. We will take time during the next meeting to flesh out further guidelines for ongoing team use. So first, I'll just go through them. These also are listed in your binders for team members, for those of you that don't have books. So number 1, treat your teammates with respect, including communicating with a respectful tone of voice and body language. You may not like them all, nor their ideas, but as long as you keep respect, the conversation can continue. So a ridiculously large amount of communication is nonverbal. They're saying now about 93%. Only 7% is the words we actually use. So given that, keep a respectful tone, even if the conversation gets heated, which it may in here. And refrain from eye rolling, big sighs, that sort of thing when somebody else is talking. You all know what I'm talking about, right? So that's the first ground rule. Second, allow your teammates to complete their comments without interrupting. Third, test your assumptions. That is, don't treat your guesses about others as facts. They're just guesses. 4, listen attentively and with an open mind. 5, concentrate on the interests, needs, or concerns expressed by your teammates. Not so much on their positions or the solutions they're proposing, and they may be proposing to address their interests. Not at this point. We'll have plenty of time again for that. So the team will need to create fusion of really disparate ideas. And the way to do that is to explore common interests. So you need to listen for what might be important to each member underneath their opinions, their positions, their strategies, or their proposed solutions. What I mean about this is when I said earlier that transparency is important to me, and then I talked about what I was going to do to meet that. Transparency there is then an interest of mine. It's something I value, it's something I hold to be very important. So listen for those things as your team members are speaking. Number 6, please follow through on your agreements, including your commitment to these rules. 7, take care of yourself while continuing to treat the team with respect. And what I mean with that is do what you need to do. If you need to get up and stretch, please feel free to do that as undisruptively as possible. 3 hours is a long time to be sitting in a room. If you need to go use the facilities, please go ahead and do that. That's up to you. And lastly, focus on the business at hand during the team meetings. Turn off all electronics, do not take calls, and avoid distractions such as texting or checking email. Notice, nowhere does it say that members can't hold an initial opinion that you don't agree with or that you feel strongly about. So, kind of in the vernacular, that'd be, don't worry, you might be offended. That's not against the rules. So, any questions about these ground rules? Okay, are you willing to have me intervene with the group according to these ground rules?
Yes.
Okay, sometimes? Can you tell me more about that, Ernie? Okay. Are you willing to practice them during our meeting?
May I just ask one really quick question?
Please, go ahead.
Because number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it seems like at some point we're going to talk about positions and solutions. So does this apply more in the beginning meetings and less in the later meetings?
Some of both. It will be included always, even when we're talking about, explicitly talking about solutions. Perhaps mostly then. We'll talk more about this in the next meeting. I didn't want to get into too much of ground rules, but because I found that they're very important in
Yeah, and it's not my unwillingness to do it. I just wanted more clarification about, because I assume eventually we'll be talking about.
Absolutely. They will, and some of that may happen today as we do our round robin. And again, as you hear those, especially if you get tweaked by those, listen, what are they saying underneath? What interest, what need might they be trying to meet by that particular solution? Okay? So, any changes in order that you would like to see about this? Okay, and again, we'll revisit this at the beginning of the meeting next time so that we can get real clear, and then we'll have a set of ground rules that will follow us throughout, that will guide us throughout the remainder of the meetings. Yes, Jim?
Are these books going to be the same ones we will receive each time? Shall we write in them, I guess, or not?
I believe that they're yours for the duration. Then they will get more and more heavy.
Okay.
Okay, thanks Jimmy for that question. Okay, thanks Jimmy for that question. Okay, so we're only 1 minute over. That wasn't too bad, huh, Michelle? Okay, so now Michelle Divich will present the charge from the school board and clarify any of it. And again, for those of you that are observers, when I say TCB, the purpose, the charge, the goals, and the decision criteria, those are around there.
Okay, so why we're here. The board has had countless presentations and thoughts shared with them about what we need to do to resolve this issue. So our job is to seek a common vision for an Ellensburg Middle School, and then to be able to turn around and present that as a recommendation to the school board. So we want to I wanted to make sure that there's action behind that it's not just a lot of collaboration time. So what does that look like? We are going to be examining the past work that's been done on the middle school issue. Not just the formal work, but some of the informal work, or work that's been not done by the district, such as the work that Scott and his team has been doing in the mom group, different, anything that's been done, we're going to be reviewing that. The school district contracted with Washington State University. Some of you may have received a telephone survey in the last several weeks. We will get those results, I believe, on July 1st, and hopefully get them into everybody's hands soon after that, to be able to review that information from our community and the work that the city of Ellensburg has now done on transforming the existing Morgan into a community center. To explore, it says to explore common interests and needs for the middle school. I think that we could probably cross out the word common, because I don't think we come here today with necessarily that common thought yet, but to be able to examine explore the interests and the needs, to tabulate potential solutions or strategies, and then evaluate those against some decision-making criteria. The two goals out of this are to, any questions on those first before I?
Quick question, where do the criteria come from?
There's a potential list that's just about 3 sections down on this page.
Okay.
And then,
thank you.
Yep, okay. Anything else?
And the idea is that we will jointly
Make sure that those
modify or
yeah.
accept or whatever those criteria.
So the goals out of this is to reunify the middle school unless a much, much better solution is found. But to bring grades 6 through 8 back together and give us back a middle school. And then to in the process of that reunification, make sure that we're implementing best practices for a 21st century middle school education. I'm going to have this book available. I think I only have 12 copies tonight because I need to go on a little scavenger hunt around the building because I know that people have these in their classrooms. This is a book called This We Believe, published by the National Middle School Association, and it's very short, 50 pages. And it is a great starting point for understanding what a middle school is and what the goals of a middle school are, because it's really important that as a team we recognize that it's not a mini high school, that a middle school is a unique time period in a child's life that we want to honor. So I do have 12 of them tonight. If somebody says, yeah, I'd like to read that before the next meeting and bring it back for somebody else, that'd be groovy. But so those are available. The initial list of potential decision-making criteria, and like Meg said, this will evolve and get clarified throughout the process, but cost being obviously a pretty significant decision criteria. The ability for whatever decision we make and recommend to the school board to meet the program needs of Morgan Middle School. Safety, in particular, and this listed here is parking, student drop-off pickup, the traffic impacts, and I would extend that to school safety in general. And I think Darren probably will have a lot to offer on that idea of what that needs to look like in a modern middle school. The site size and how it's organized, that how this project fits into other facility project needs within the district, recognizing that we are a district of 5 schools and Morgan Middle School is just one, and so how does this fit into the grand scheme of things? The ability of our Ellensburg community to be able to visualize the outcome of whatever it is we're recommending, so that it's not that concept and that fear of the blank check. And so however that needs to look and how that can be incorporated into decision making. And then the construction schedule and impacts of how that would, and I think we'll be getting into those more when we hear probably from Hill International and from the architects. So I think, Scott, you mentioned having benchmarks and having a timeline. And I think one of the important things on this page is that a status report is going to be done and presented to the school board by August 30th. And so that gives us our first point in time by which we have to be able to say, this is where we're at, this is what we're working towards, with a final report due October 15th, so that the board then has an opportunity to take everything that we've recommended and do their very challenging task of using that to make their decisions. So, I don't know if Meg or Dick or Paul has anything to add. Any questions, clarifications?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. So we're actually now ahead of schedule, which is excellent, because that means it leaves more time for the round robin. Now, I want to talk just briefly about the schedule of meetings. The meetings at this point are scheduled on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th Wednesdays of July, August, September, and October. Obviously, there is a 5th Wednesday in the month. And there's a list in your binder of the actual dates of that. There can be and may be additional meetings if the team decides that those are helpful. For example, site visits, meeting with consultants at a different time, that sort of thing. And those dates, times, and places of any additional meetings will be listed on the Ellensburg School District website and Facebook page. And I don't know, probably listed in the paper as well. So there will be plenty of time to share viewpoints, discover common ground, research facts and perspectives of subject matter experts, explore possible solutions, and come to consensus on one. Any questions about scheduled meetings? Okay. Now, the break was scheduled for 6:30. And so what I would like to do, of course, It's almost time for the break, but I have to do an introduction to the break. I'm a process person. This is what I do. So I'll talk about that. And actually, because we do have, yeah, we'll do the break. We'll do the break first. So it's for this and other breaks in subsequent meetings, I will announce the starting and ending times for those breaks. We will reconvene the group and continue with the agenda as soon as the break is scheduled to be over, without rounding up team members or delaying for everyone to return. I encourage you to be present with the group at all times during the meeting sessions, because we're beginning to learn about what everybody's bringing to the room. However, it is your responsibility to be where you need to be when the team is in session, and I will assume you are taking responsibility for balancing your personal needs with those of the group. For example, if you choose to continue a phone call in progress out in the hall rather than returning to the group when the meeting reconvenes. If you do need to be absent for an extended time or will not be returning to the meeting, please let us know so we won't worry about your health or safety. For your consideration during the break, during the round robin to follow, you will be asked to complete the statement. The middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that. So here is that statement. So you might think about if you like to kind of, get your thoughts together. This is what you will be asked to, this is the statement you will be asked to complete during the round robin after the break. Any questions about that? I'll, of course, do some more introduction to the round robin before we get there.
Could I say something?
Please, Steve.
Judging from a few people obviously had more to say than just what they hope to get out of this meeting. And none of the things that I heard related to this specific question. I wonder if it would be possible to have a round where people could just say what's on their mind.
And thank you for that. That would be possible. This will help structure people's comments so that if they, again, to be transparent, it will help people stay brief to answer this. Does that work for you with that? Does that work for the rest of the group?
Is that part of the initial round robin?
It is, and that is the round robin. And again, to remind you, and I will continually remind you of this, because there is so much that needs to be said by the members of this group, that we will have plenty of time to do this. This is just the beginning tonight, and most of it is introduction. So this just gets, go to the core for this time, because we'll have about 3 minutes to talk. Each of you will have about 2 minutes to talk. Any other questions? Thanks, Steve. Okay, so it is now 6:17. If you could be back here, the meeting will reconvene at 6:27. I believe there's goodies in the back. Have that. To make a quick introduction to the initial round robin, where each of you on the team will begin to briefly share your viewpoints on the middle school issue. Over the course of the next 4 months, we will take whatever time we need to hear and understand each team member's views on the Ellensburg Middle School issue, as well as clarifying the interests and the needs behind those views. We'll start by going around the table tonight. This is just the beginning, and there will be plenty of time to talk in the next 4 months. So as we go around, as others are talking, listen for the interests and needs behind the positions or the proposed solutions that may be expressed. The team is here to craft a solid solution, and that begins with listening to the extent of the disagreements within this team and discovering the agreements underneath. We will be looking for common ground eventually. So it's finally time to begin the process of finding common ground by going around the table and having each team member repeat your name and briefly complete the statement, the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that, and then say what you think. There's no preset idea of what comes after that, but that gets you thinking, everyone thinking in the same direction. I will capture the essence of your answers and then check with you for accuracy at the end of your comments. Given the size of the team, and we have a little bit of extra time, but not a lot, so there will be time for each to speak for only 3 minutes or less. Does everyone on the team agree to abide by this time limit? Please nod. Please indicate your agreement by nodding. And I'd like to see everybody's eyes, if you could just, I want to see this head nod. Okay, we got that going.
This reminds me so much of my divorce mediation.
I actually do mediate divorces, so this is
I can tell. I can tell. I'm getting shivers.
Dorothy?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so I will set a timer. Where did I go? I will set a timer for 3 minutes. If it goes off while you're talking, please complete your sentence briefly and stop talking. Please feel free to make notes on further comments that you want to make sure that you make next time. There's papers that Paul passed around, or we can, if anybody needs paper or pencils, just holler and we'll find some somewhere. Okay, this is not the time to lay out your positions or solutions in great detail. There'll be plenty of time for that in subsequent meetings. It's also okay for anyone to pass. If you just don't feel like talking today, or you don't have your ideas together, that's fine, no problem. Or if your mouth is full and you'd rather eat, that's fine too. Okay, so we'll begin with Tor, and we'll move clockwise through to Dorothy. Please repeat your name and briefly complete the statement. The middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that. We've had a request from our videographer, or cameraman, or whatever it's called, that there will be a brief pause between each of you so we can get the camera set up and not make the viewers a little bit ill. Okay? So, Tor, please go ahead.
So, my name is Tor Blaisdell. I told Linda I would go first, but I hate going first.
Oh.
But I'll give it my best shot. The middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that the curricular needs of the students are achieved, and if at all possible, surpassed in every way, to ensure that they will go on to be successful and competitive in a 21st century world.
That was good.
That was very
But in this part. So the curricular needs of the students are met.
Can we vote on that?
No, this is all about consensus. We're not voting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the statements are met.
Are met or exceeded to prepare students to be successful and competitive in a 21st century world.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tor. And just a sideline, one of the observers pointed out that I spelled something wrong. I get a pen in my hand and I'm up here and my spelling just goes out there. So I don't mind you checking in with that, but please take
Spelling's overrated.
What?
Spelling's overrated.
Okay, I'm not going there. Not with all this.
He's not an English teacher here.
Okay, so are we set?
Yes.
Okay, so Lauren.
Oh, I start now. Lauren.
Yeah, I believe that, yeah. Is it ready for Lauren to?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that it is economical enough, most economical that it can be accepted by greater than 60% of the Ellensburg School District community. And further, that the goal be to be acceptable to much more than 60% because our responsibility is to everyone in the community, not just the 60% plus one vote. Further, too, the plan needs to be designed such that it accommodates
this much?
a balance of all the students' needs and interests without privileging one or two over other, one or two activities or needs and interests. It's hard enough to say this, but to make it able to be written down up there is really challenging.
So, they're kind of that it accommodates the balance and
accommodates the balance along with the cost issues. I mean, further from one, yeah.
And that it accommodates the balance of all students' needs and interests without privileging one or two activities.
Yes. And three, that it's just corollary to all to the first two is that the plan needs to consider the impact of the school new form. The new form has to consider the impact on other aspects of the whole community. So because the school is so central to the health of, say, the downtown, our core of our town, where possibly, this is one of those things I talked about in my statement as a fact-checking issue. This is a little sidebar.
So that was the little sound
good.
that Darren is helping with. So, okay. So just to clarify this one, that whatever new situation does need to consider the impact on other aspects of the community.
Yes.
Is that?
That's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. And just a moment, Dick. Okay, Dick.
Initially, I was going to pass. I know I was going to be surprised that Meg and probably Paul and everybody else have watched the school board meetings that passed. But just think of one thing that I want to add, in short and sweet. Middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that form follows function.
So form follows function. Would you like to elaborate on that, Dick?
Well,
You don't have to, but if you'd like to.
well, hopefully I thought that was clear. Form,
Okay.
design the building is what the program needs are, and you design your facility around this program needs for the 21st century.
basic educational needs have already, just in a few speakers, been covered pretty well. So I'd like to talk about the design life of the building and what the world looks like now compared to what the world looked like, say, 30 years ago, which, as I understand it, is a typical design life, and what the world will look like in another 30 years when the new building or the whatever building nears the end of its design life. More than any time that I can think of, at least, I'm not that old, so that's not saying much, but more than any time in the past that I can think of, we can be pretty certain that the world's going to be a very different place in 30 years. And those changes are already being seen, and we will, I hope, keep in mind the role of the building, the education that happens inside of it, and the way the kids get to school, and how that will be affected by the world as it changes from now to 30 years from now. And if anybody has any questions about specifically what I mean, I'd be happy to talk about that in my time remaining, or we'll talk about it as the process goes on.
And there'll be plenty of time for questions next time, so that, and maybe there'll be some time today, I don't know, for clarification, questions of clarification. So what I have down is the design, the life of the building to match with the current timeframes and changes to the world in about 30 years, in the 30-year period. For example, the way kids get to school. It seemed like there was something else you said as well. Was there anything else that...
You know, I wrote down everyone else's comments, but I don't...
Okay, well, I'm sure that'll come out later. Okay. So, thanks, Steve.
I'm Paul, and mine kind of echoes Steve's in that, you know, the middle school plan needs to be designed for today's students and the students that we're going to be having in the future.
Sorry, just a second, Paul. I have technical difficulties.
Watch your time.
Yeah, you can talk. I think I'm just going to have to take these other ones off because it's not working. And this is Jeff Cochran, our handy-dandy communication specialist for the school district, and he's make this happen. Dealing with these sheets is my least favorite part. Okay, we're ready. Sorry, Paul, thanks.
So essentially, is that built for today's students and students of the future? I also see a need that this is schools need to involve the communities and be part of the community. And one of the things that I think the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way, at least for me, that it's a win for everyone, not just for everybody here that has a different sort of point of view, but mainly for the kids.
Okay, so that it needs to be built for today's students and the students of the future, be part of the community, and is a win for everyone. Does that capture what you were saying? Okay, thank you. Okay, Jimmy?
Jimmy, I'm sort of a how to do it by the numbers guy. So I believe the middle school plan needs to be transparent, number one. Number two, that it has no open-ended fund expenses at the pleasure of the board, written in the resolution and in all the plans. That it be clear, that it be written in concise and precise English, that there is no fluff.
Okay, hold on just a second. Clear, written in concise. Oh, good luck on that one. Clear, written in concise language.
Clear and concise English.
Okay.
That there be no fluff. That there be enough detail that there will not be questions raised about X, Y, or Z included in the plan, that it be written in such a way that any excess funds not expended for construction be used to pay off the debt, that the plan itself includes the total costs, including the interest, for the public to know what those total costs are, and that finally it should be made with the understanding that a building is just a building, and it's the folks within the building who have to have the facilities to make the educational system work. No mansions.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Just a second-hand note. So you would like it to be transparent, that there are no open-ended funds to be expended at the will of the board. That it is clear, written, and concise. There we go. Stand back a little bit, makes sense. Clear, written, and concise English. There's no fluff. There are enough details that there will be no questions. That it's written in such a way that any extra money goes back into paying back the debt. That the total numbers are including interest, etc. And then we'll get the last one here. And what was your last one here?
Recognize that it's just a building, and with the people who work within that building must have the adequate facilities, but no mansions.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Okay, Darren?
Middle school plan, my name is Darren Wright. Middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that students are safe. One of my big things is going to be obviously student safety, both from a fire perspective and a law enforcement perspective. Access by emergency vehicles, both law enforcement and fire engines and fire equipment and EMS in case of an emergency, and egress of the students. If we use the same plan to get the students out as we're trying to get emergency vehicles in, that's going to be a clogging point. So things like that to be thinking about. Safeguards in the case of a tragedy. In today's world, everybody watches the news. It's not, we can't put our heads in the sand and say, well, we'll just hope it doesn't happen here. Something will happen eventually, and we need to plan for it, and if we're ready for it, we can reduce or minimize that tragedy as best we can. From the law enforcement perspective, we train for that tragedy. We train, we prepare, but we need to we can train as much as we want, but if we can't get in to stop the threat or to take care of the situation, it's not going to do any good. So the building needs to be thought of in a safety manner for the students, just to keep the students safe. I mean, we all care. Everything is about the students. The students should be the number one priority, the number one thought, but safety needs to be thought about in that planning process. We have to have something that educates the students, gives them a good environment to learn. We also got to keep them safe. So that's one of the perspectives I'd like to be seeing come from this.
Okay. So, just to make sure I caught it, that your main concern is that with the design that the students are safe, including access of emergency vehicles in, evacuation of students out, that you want to plan for a tragedy to help minimize or prevent damage or harm, let's use harm. And that students are the #1 priority, to educate, help them learn, and keep them, safe. Did I get it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great, thanks, Darren. you want to design?
Best possible learning environment and safety.
And safety.
Cost.
Okay, great, thank you. Just to repeat, to make sure that it gets on the video so that everything gets recorded, is that the design should allow for the best possible learning environment for the students, plus the safety is important as well for Marlene, and that the solution be cost effective. Okay.
My name is Ernie, and I feel this is all about budget. This is, I appreciate all the other comments. I think they're right on. But this is all about budget, a saleable budget to the taxpayers. We have a grave responsibility to spend other people's money here, and we just can't go off willy-nilly, and I'm sure no one is intending to, with spending other people's money unwisely. We have to identify our market. The market here in Kittitas County is not a real wealthy market. You don't build a Four Seasons hotel where maybe the market is a Holiday Inn Express. And I think we have to keep that in mind. I built many business parks, office buildings, and there was no point in building a building that wasn't going to sell or wasn't going to be occupied. Empty buildings don't help anybody. And in this case, same thing here with our meetings. If we don't have a proposal to the taxpayers that's going to be approved, we've wasted our time. So I think it's all about budget. Finally, I took it upon myself the last couple of weeks. Well, I was sort of second guessing the previous board. I was wondering why in the world it had to be so expensive. I just couldn't understand it. And I talked to some people, I talked to some other architects that didn't win the bid here, and they gave me some very discouraging comments about why it's so expensive. And one thing that shocked me is, in the past, I've heard that the high school, maybe some people thought that the high school was overbuilt, and maybe it was too expensive. Well, I believe the bond was let for the high school in 2004, and the actual contract for that school was $135 a square foot. That high school, near as I can tell, is much fancier than, say, the Kittitas Middle School and the Kittitas Secondary School. And I believe the contract budget for that was $185 a square foot. So it's amazing how costs have gone up. And I feel that we need to explain that to the voting community, because there's a number of reasons which we can get into later. But we really have to explain that. I've got a lot of experience in this stuff. I was shocked at what you guys are faced with as far as costs. So,
Thanks for me.
And Meg, the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that, one, it meets the educational needs of the students. Two, that the voters will pass a bond that proposes the plan. Three, and therefore costs, budget, and where the money comes from are key considerations. Three, environmental considerations need to be emphasized, carefully considering what our world is going to be like during the life of this building, to echo Steve. We must minimize the use of fossil fuels in connection with this building, which again includes transportation as well as the energy that runs the building and the energy it takes to build the building. And for it needs to be designed in such a way that an adequate performing arts facility is provided for the schools and for use of the schools and the community, so that without unnecessary duplication.
An adequate performing arts facility is available without?
For the schools and community, available without unnecessary duplication.
Okay, so that it meets the needs of the students, that the public will pass the bond, so that the cost and financing are key, that emphasize environmental matters, including use of fossil fuels, and that an adequate performing arts facility for schools and communities is available without unnecessary duplication. Is that everything? Yep. Okay. We'll get you a new sheet.
I'm Aubrey again. I would say middle school planning needs to be designed in such a way that the entire middle school is kept together 6 through 8, because, like Ms. Vivich said, it's a very different time in our lives, and we really need everyone together to, I don't know, fully experience middle school. And also, again, to have something that the public will pass, because I know a lot of people who had kids in school but yet voted against it because they just couldn't afford it, and we need to take that into consideration.
I'm Allison.
Okay, if I could just, hold on for just a second, I want to just double check with Audrey that the entire middle school is kept together 6 through 8, and that it's something the public will pass, so that's primarily financial issues. Okay, thanks, Allison.
I'm Allison. I agree it absolutely needs to be affordable and passable. Yet at the same time, if all this community is willing to build is a cinder block warehouse, then I'd rather keep limping along as we are. I think it's got to be a place where kids want to come every day. So not luxurious, but inviting. A second priority is that it's not miles and miles out of town or sprawling, covering dozens of acres. When I go to places like West Valley or Spokane, you have to drive for miles and miles out in the middle of nowhere to get to their schools. And to me, the school's got to be part of this community and hopefully meet multiple needs, like Meg said. And finally, I agree with Lauren that that sense of balance, that it's not just meeting the needs of sports or vocational or performing arts, but a balance of academic, arts, physical education, everything, that every stakeholder feels included in the process.
Okay. Clearly, we know what the slow link is here. So that you agree that it needs to be affordable and passable, that it has got to be inviting, that it's not miles out of town nor sprawling, and that it meets multiple needs, and also that the solution would provide a balance of academic, sports, arts, etc., so every stakeholder feels included. Is that correct? Did I get that? Yeah. Okay. Great.
I'm Scott. We're attempting to do something that other groups have tried and failed several times. I think we need to respect that a little bit and make sure that we understand there are reasons why those groups have failed. First and foremost is cost. We need to have a cost-effective plan. But the value of that building needs to be described to the public in such a way that they are willing to sacrifice for such a building. So cost and value go together. Second reason why the other plans failed had to do with location. We need to have a location that is good for the community on many different levels. one that allows for the future of whatever school we build, and works in connection with the other schools in our community as well. We need to communicate a plan to the voters of what we are going to do with Morgan Middle School. Specifically, what are we going to do with the Performing Arts Center and the Performing Arts community? There were promises that were made. There are people that want to do things. There are some groups of people that want their project handled. But we need to build this for everybody, but at the same time, provide a plan for those promises that were made. We don't have to do it, but we have to have a plan for it. A plan for Morgan and a plan for a Performing Arts Center.
Okay, so you want to respect, you feel it's important to respect that there are reasons that the prior groups attempting this agreement groups failed, okay? And to respect that, and that that you feel that the first is the cost, that it needs to be cost effective. Both cost and the value of the building needs to be explained and taken into account. Second, that the location is good for the community on many different levels, that it works with other schools, etc. And third, needs to include a plan of what to do with the Morgan Middle School building, and specifically the performing space. Having a performing arts space needs to have a plan. So I have to shut up. Okay?
Yeah, you
Get
will.
that? Okay. I think I'll just go here. Okay.
I went to Molly Edson, and so many good things have been said around this table to repeat all of them, but I just think that the most important, the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that it passes. I mean, it's an embarrassment. It's bad for our community. It's bad for our pride. It's bad for our kids and our teachers who are working in that situation. And so some of the ideas that we all have to go by the wayside. And we have to talk to the people and find out what they'll vote for. And we have to put that before them. And it's just, sometimes you just our very fact of sitting around these tables, some people are not going to talk to you now. They're going to assume you're on one side or another. You have to ask the grocery clerk. You have to ask everyone and just say, what should we be doing about Morgan? And don't get entrenched early on what it is we're going to do. We have to listen to what people will vote for. And that I really think is like a key. If we could just stay open-minded long enough to make a plan that people will pass. The rest, we have the staff, we have the teachers, we have great kids. We just need to get them into a situation where they can thrive. And we need to do that by finding out what people will do. And some of it is, I've said it again and again, is surveying. I think we need to know what people will pass. And that, for me, is the bottom line.
Okay. Okay, so kind of ditto to many of the things that have already been spoken, but the bottom line is that this bond needs to pass. Talk to people, find out what they want, and then deliver that. Refrain from getting entrenched, stay open to new ideas and considerations, and allow things to fall away if necessary. Create a plan that people will support, do a survey, talk to folks in town. Does that cover it? Okay. So maybe let go. Okay. Well, you guys are just trying.
Sarah. And, I think the middle school plans to be designed in such a way that it addresses the current minimal necessary needs of the students while addressing the current financial abilities of the community. No fluff, to borrow your words. The plan needs to be open to expansion or adaptation. It needs to be minimal, but the planning needs to be there so that as need changes, as need for more, that it can be added without having to replace the entire school in 30 years. It needs to be open in such a way that it will adapt for new needs. We don't need to need everything at this point. My complaint, and I voted against the other bonds because there were 2 theaters, there were 3 gymnasiums, and I didn't feel like that was necessary. But if we could get the minimal, and then after the current financial situation at least in Washington State eases up, then they can add to it. It doesn't all have to be at this point. If you try to get it all at this point, you're going to end up having something that needs replacing in 30 years. Anyway, that's it.
Okay, so let's get that last bit there. Okay, so Dorothy, what I heard was that whatever plan needs to address the current minimum needs of students while addressing the money concerns of people in the community or in the district. That it needs to be open to expansion or adaptation, but to start small, and the plan is such that it can get larger.
Or adapt.
Perhaps, if needed. Okay, and that we don't need everything right now, and the plan would need to include not having to replace everything in 30 years. Is that okay? Did I miss anything? Okay, well that went fast. This is going to be really fun. Okay, so now it's going to be time to hunt pretty soon, and thank you, Darren, for doing the timing. So there's a lot of information here. It's a great start. I was going to say, Molly, yes.
I was just going to ask a housekeeping thing. Is anyone else cold?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that the blue thing?
It's set at 66.
That's why I'm not.
Yeah, no control.
No control.
It opened up somehow. It opened.
Yeah, it turned on an hour or so ago. Get that fire hammer.
Darren, can I borrow your 11s here? See if that works.
Okay, it's still going, but I don't suppose we can open the doors. Okay, so this is great. We're about 50 minutes early, which is awesome. So now I'd like to move toward, we have lots of information back there, but I'd like to open the time for comments from observers if anyone would like to say something. I didn't get any cards, or I would read them. Does anybody have interest of the observers that would like to share? Anything you'd like the team to know? Thank you. Magic. Thank you. Okay. So thanks to the team for being here. Okay. So This is great. So now we would usually review the meeting and set the agenda for the next meeting, but we have plenty of time. Any suggestions for what we want to do for the extra hour that we have?
Go home.
Go home. And this is the beginning of consensus here. We take ideas and then the group decides. Yes, Lauren.
Question about all the notes you took, maybe you said already, will those be transcribed and we'll get them, or how will that work?
That's an excellent question. My understanding is that they will be transcribed and we'll go on to the, is that correct? No, what I'm doing here, we're looking at Jeff Cochran, who is the in-house communication expert. Right? Hey, yeah, no high expectations or anything. So he is the consultant. How about that? Would consultant be better? Okay.
Cancel your vacation.
Okay, so we have a subject matter expert here.
Our hope is to be able to give an update of the information that occurred at the meeting, as well as what each individual may have stated in the round robin. We also plan to take notes at the next meeting, and the thought is right now is every 2 meetings is to put the information in a flyer of what was discussed and what occurred. Get that back to this committee for input, and then send it to the entire community. That's what the thoughts were, and so because we want to make sure that the entire community hears what goes on at these meetings. And what we have found out is that they've started to take an interest in our informational flyers that we have been putting out. And so the thought is to put something like this out about every 2 meetings after this group has had an opportunity to prove it, to make sure that we've captured it correctly.
Thank you. I guess what I meant, go ahead and then I'll follow.
No, well, it's fresh on everybody's mind. It was interesting to hear all the comments, to kind of almost re-summarize or get a better order of what I'm thinking. I wonder if that's the case for everybody else as well, where maybe you'd almost want to, in half a minute, just say anything else you might want to say.
Okay, so we have an option of, just completing the process that we had listed in the agenda and going home early. We also have a suggestion that we go around one more time and very quickly see if there's anything that we might add. And Lauren, did you have anything to add about that? Or anything else?
I would like to have those. I didn't write everything down, and then I probably should have, at the beginning asked about it. So I would like to have all of those because it seems like it would be useful just for us, apart from what is released to the public, to work from, because people are speaking clear from their minds straight off the bat, what they feel.
And I'm seeing that Jeff's going to take care of that. So he will take these comments and he will call me if he can't read my writing or understand my, okay. And then you will bring them, you will send them out, will you bring them next meeting? Well,
if we have emails,
next
or I'll bring them next meeting.
Okay. Would bringing them the next meeting help you, Lauren?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Dorothy, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Just that I'm excited. I thought this might be a foregone conclusion that we're going to try to ram through what we tried to ram through before. And I'm excited that it looks like everybody is open to adaption, whatever it happens to be, wherever it ends.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and Tor?
I just wanted to dovetail what Ernie said. There might, if we could just have 2 seconds to ask for clarification maybe on other people's round robin comments, just not to challenge them, but just to ask, I'm not sure what you meant by something.
So questions of clarification that you're echoing. what Ernie said, okay? So we got those two, and then Allison?
Actually, mine is more of a setting an agenda than a meeting item, so I'll say that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so are there any objections to doing a quick round if anybody has any questions of clarification? Are there any problems with doing that? Okay, so we'll do that. Oh, Meg.
I just want to point out, I was looking at what people said. Dorothy, you just kind of said that one of the things you hoped to get out of this meeting was to find out that it wasn't so, that it would be more of the same. And it sounds like you said you got that, but earlier you said you hope to learn more about how the school board that we weren't undermining the authority or of the board or usurping the authority of the board or something to that effect. I wrote down you didn't want this to be a cover for the board so the board could hide behind it. And you referred to the discussion in the paper where one school board member was concerned that the school board wasn't living up to its own responsibilities.
Yeah, just whenever you want to start going around, wherever you want to start is fine.
Okay. So we went around that way. You want to go around this way this time? Get wild? Okay, so my understanding is that if you have any questions of clarification or something else that's burning that you wanted to express again, and thank you for expressing about that you're excited to be here. I'm glad because I'm excited to be here too. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I've said it all.
Okay, thank
That
you.
I can think of.
Okay, well, we might actually have time to come back if you think of something else you can raise. Molly, anything that you have?
No, not really.
No questions or
No
clarifications?
No.
Okay. Steve, Scott?
I don't think Ellensburg is a community that doesn't pass bond issues. By far, Ellensburg is a community that gets behind their youth, that does things for the community. So some serious things have happened that has made this community act multiple times now in this fashion. And we need to be transparent, and we need to be listening to those people to where trust is restored. There is a great amount of distrust over this issue in the community right now.
Okay, so Ellensburg, in your view, is not a community that does not, we've got a nice double negative here, not a community
Sorry, English.
that does not pass the school bond. And listen such that trust is restored because there's a great mistrust.
Today, on this issue.
Okay, does that capture it?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Allison?
Well, I guess both what Molly and Scott said, I mean, 59% of the community did vote yes last time, so that suggests to me that really we don't need to get everyone's vote, we need to get those 8 people that didn't vote. So I just wonder, I don't want us to swing too far the other way, you know, like pandering to maybe the small minority that are naysayers and several who are like, I don't know, not quite sure. But then 59% who voted yes for the school. I guess I'd like to find, just that small group maybe, well, there are some people that will never vote yes, no matter what. But that small group, like you said, that doesn't trust. And I guess, of course, I want to win them over. And find a plan that's acceptable to them and the other 59% that voted last time.
Okay, so that Allison, that 60% is enough to pass the bond and not to
We were
worry
so
about
close.
going too far for the 100%, toward the 100%.
Yeah.
And there was something else that you said that I missed. So that not worry before I write this down, I'll say, so that you don't want to worry about that small number of people.
Yeah,
that
some people
mistrust.
will never vote for any new incarnation of a school, but I guess I'd just like to win the small group that maybe was wavering. And
Or
of
the
course-
folks who didn't vote at all.
Yeah.
Which is not inconsiderable, you know.
And that also is a vote.
Right, yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm just going to combine, if I could, Allison, the comments that I heard from a listening tour. I'll get much better about hearing people's voices.
I wasn't very coherent anyway.
Okay, no, that's.
Go ahead and rewrite.
Well, then we're a good match because I'm not so great at writing this stuff down. So also get more people to vote. Okay, so that it's your view that it's actually, that those who mistrust are actually a small percentage of
I'd
them.
like to think so.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
Okay, thank you, Allison. You have anything? Okay. Thanks, Andre. Meg, do you have anything else?
Well, one thing I forgot to say is that the middle school plan needs to be designed in such a way that voters or the public can understand how this project fits into the school district's longer term plan. Because I think it would be criminal and unwise, and if we finally got a middle school adopted and then we had to go back to the voters and say, oops, by the way, we need to fix the elementary schools or expand the elementary schools or whatever it is. I mean, I think this plan needs to be seen in that context, so that, again, we don't have too many frills or stuff we don't need, because there are other needs behind it. And it generates mistrust to not say that.
Okay. So that the voters and the public need to understand how this fits with other projects, so that we don't lose support in the future.
And just from a
I'd like to hug you. I think that's a great idea. I think that's wonderful.
Okay, and I'm just gonna if I could, for just a second, Ernie, that I just wanted to point out here, because we've talked, I've talked on and on about positions and interests here, and one thing that Meg just expressed was the interest of integrity. That part of the school, of how she feels about what happens with this plan is that it needs to increase the integrity with which the board is perceived. Is that correct? Okay, so that was just a little teachable moment. That was an interest. Okay, thanks, Ernie. Next.
That aside, I'd like to think that most of the community, 85–90%, probably realizes we need a new middle school. And if we presented the proper proposal, gosh, I would hope we'd get 85–90%. The people that voted against it, and I voted against it, I had strong reasons to vote against it. And it's not because I didn't think we needed a new one. I just thought it was too damn expensive. I love Scott's comment. I love the other comment by the lady next to him about compromises. But we need to figure out why it failed before. And really, to me, that's the key, is to come up with the right budget, why it failed before, and make those compromises. All of these other platitudes, we all want nice schools, we all want 21st century schools, and not to degrade what you said. But that doesn't get to the heart of the matter. I mean, we all want, we don't want the roofs to leak. I understand that. We want to get out of the building safely. But we've got to figure out, at the very minimum, what works, and if we can improve upon that with a budget that'll pass, great. I mean, I don't want to see a cinder block or a barn, but certainly a lot of people have had great educations in cinder blocks and barns too. Like Jimmy said, it's the people that are teaching, and it's the curriculum, and the atmosphere there. So I believe it's all about the cost, the compromises, and figuring out why it passed, why it didn't pass before. To come back to your comment, your question of me, there was some comments in the paper from school board members about how this might undermine their authority. And frankly, I think there's good reason why it probably does undermine their authority. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having these meetings. And hopefully, the school board members will understand that, take it constructively, and no offense intended, but facts are facts. I mean, it's failed 3, 4 times. So, that aside, get over it. Let's get going.
4 times.
4 times, okay.
So you didn't use the word power, that's the only one I can think of, but the comments in the paper about undermining the authority, thank you.
I don't know what that needs to be put in there.
Well, it can't hurt. It's all recorded anyway, so that's okay. We'll make it easier. We'll make it easier for Jeff. Okay. And you're not the only one that has mentioned this, so we'll just get it up here. I didn't write it down.
Okay.
If that works for you, is that okay with you? I can cross it out.
Sure.
And everybody can for sure. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Marlene, anything?
I just wanted to say I appreciate what you're going to do, Paul, getting the newsletter out every couple of weeks. I think that's a big part of the problem is people didn't know what was going on as it was going on. And it goes to the transparency. I think that was one of the biggest reasons probably this failed so many times. There was a huge mistrust, I don't believe it was deserved, of the school board, but that's what it was because of all the talk about people think they know what's going on and they don't, and rumor mill and stuff. So getting that out there and being as transparent as possible, hopefully will gain trust. And I personally would like to, I think you just said it, Ernie, go after that 85%. We might not get it, but I don't want just those few, because there was a lot of the 59% that didn't want to vote for it, but they felt like they had to. It'd be nice to get all of them completely on board, plus another 20.
Okay, so that, okay, so that you appreciate the newsletters and the increased communication, that people didn't know what was going on, when it was going on, and that led to an increase in mistrust and rumors. And now the increased transparency is helpful. And there was something after that? Sorry? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, basically, just maybe you're going to say, I think that's, you've got down there.
Okay. And to go, that you'd be in favor of going after something close to the 85, 90%, but at least getting the strong support of the 60 plus, so that you don't have people holding, I mean, this is my words, holding their noses and
Right.
voting. Is
Yep.
that what, that's a phrase that I've heard before, not from you.
That's what I meant.
Okay. Okay, great. Just a second, Darren. See how comprehensive this list is going to be.
I agree with what we've had, and I really like the fact that we hear that everybody's open to ideas and stuff, and I like that. I've heard the no frills, and I've heard the minimal, and I understand the public doesn't want a Taj Mahal, and I agree with that. I don't think we need to have a Taj Mahal, a huge, beautiful building. But on the other hand, the cement cinder block warehouse, doesn't matter how much you make. If you have a home and you're proud of it, you can make it look nice, and it's pleasant to come home to. Our teachers, I have two girls that went through these schools, have a great education. They are very well productive members of society, and I attribute that, a good portion of that, to the school district giving them a good education and a good time. And because of that, it was, as we heard, the teachers inside.
But to keep, maintain, and hire good teachers, they have to have a pleasant place to go every day also. Our students go there every day, great, they get a great education. But those teachers go there every day, year after year after year, and they have to be happy to go to work. And part of that is a pleasant place to be. So going to a cinder block place that's completely no frills isn't fair to our education staff either. And I think we need to find that balance, keep costs down from where we can, but it needs to have some aesthetics so that it is a pleasant place to be for both the students and the staff.
I'm not even try to do the aesthetics one.
Looks nice.
Yeah, I remember there's an A and an E right at the beginning. Okay, so it's good that everyone's open, that's what I'm hearing, and that we don't need the Taj Mahal and, yeah, however that's spelled, but it needs to be pleasant to work in and to learn in, and that's part of keeping and maintaining and hiring good teachers to come in. So find a balance between cost and beauty is easier to spell.
Sure.
Find a balance between cost and beauty, and you need to have some aesthetic part of it in there to keep teachers wanting to come to work. Okay, did I catch it? Okay, Jimmy?
Jimmy, I believe our challenge should be to go after 100%. I don't think it's our responsibility to begin to categorize members of the community for or against or partway or didn't vote or something. Our responsibility is to do the job and do it well. Do it so that it convinces in a realistic, transparent way the community, because everybody is a member of this community. They may not vote the way we would like them to vote. I may not have voted the way many of you voted, but I'm still a member of the community, and I think these other people, other folks, have the same kind of position about things as many of us do. We are very fortunate. We are blessed to be here and have an opportunity to listen to each other, voice comments, pro and con about issues. We're going to know an awful lot. One of the things that impressed me tremendously at one of the new board meetings, one of the new members, was one of the members of the board said, "There's a large audience here. Let's ask them what they think." And you did the same thing tonight. There are people out there. Let's ask what they think. We need to do more of that. Let's ask what they think and then listen to it. Don't just say, "Thank you," but listen to it and do whatever we can to move forward and get this thing passed.
Okay, so what I heard was that to go after 100%, not to categorize members of the community based on how we think they might vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that convince the community in a transparent, open way, that the team will know a lot and share that, encouraging people to share that, and ask what the people think. Ask what people think and then listen and act on that. Does that capture?
Convince may not be a good word.
Okay, tell me another word.
Inform.
Okay.
With the intent to convince.
One of the things I do is listen for elephants, and that convince was a big elephant.
Sorry about that.
That's good. And I'm just going to say, speaking to that, Jimmy, that you know, as humans, we have, you know, how do I say this that can be recorded? We have a monitor of less than consistency in people's language. We have a very fine meter for that when people are not what we think they're thinking, you know, if they're trying to hide something. So openness is not consistent with pretending we're doing something that we're not doing. So just to put that out there. So, you know, I think that's what everybody was laughing about because we all knew that. So it's informing with the intent to convince, using transparent, open, and openness, and anything else?
No, thanks.
Okay, great, thanks. Tomorrow you're gonna have a big job. I'm gonna be done. Okay.
My pleasure.
Okay, so you pass this off. Steve?
I think it would be a good idea for us to all take a look at our property tax bills. Because these concerns about property taxes and the addition to property taxes that's going to be inevitable from what we're doing and what the school board must do are really real. And we're actually in danger of having a property tax rate that is a bit ahead of, a bit higher than comparable communities around the state. And that has implications for all sorts of things. So I was really struck, Ernie, by your comments the first time around. You started out sounding like a budget hawk, and I believe you are, but you ended up saying, oh my gosh, I had no idea how expensive it is to do this sort of thing. That's really, really sobering. I really liked the comments that it's interesting to think, well, do we want to go for 60 plus 1, or do we want to go 100% or 85%? I like what Lauren said. We need something that's acceptable to 60% of the community, keeping in mind that our responsibility is to 100% of the community. I think this is a great start. I'm really glad we're doing this.
Okay. I just stopped there for a moment. My brain just went away. Evening is not my, you know, at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm much better about
I
it,
just
but I don't.
something that was already said anyway.
Okay, yeah. So you need something that is,
What Lauren said.
okay. And is that an A or an E?
A.
This is a LMRA.
Okay, and we didn't put names, intentionally didn't put names on this, but yeah, we'll make that work. And that you're really happy that we're doing this? We'll just kind of use that. Okay, so.
It's gonna get easier for you to type, Jeff, as she goes along. Just smiling.
Yeah, that's easy, 3 characters. Wait. But it's expensive to build. Okay. Thanks, Steve.
I'm relatively new to the community. 5 years ago, I got this, I just finished my 5th year. And when I came to this community, it was the only job I applied for. I loved my other job, didn't want to leave, saw the opening, and this was just a pull. It is a great community, and Scott, I think you're right on that this is not a community that does not support our youth or the needs of our community. When the Taylor Bridge fire broke out, the response was unbelievable to watch people come in. I happened to connect right away with the Red Cross, and some colleagues and I were down starting a clothing bank. And we got to the point by mid-afternoon that this little room we had down at the Holiday Inn Express to collect clothes was so small. By that evening I went down, the entire lobby was being organized by size and all these things. This is a great community, and this community deserves to have great schools that we can be proud of. Jimmy, I think you couldn't be more right. It's what goes on the inside. And, you know, the fear of the cost, I can tell you that I had one year some extra money in my building budget. Just happened to spend wisely that year. Hasn't happened much since, so don't worry. I put out an email to the staff and said, what's your wish list? If you could get something that would make your life better here, what would that be? I was appalled at the response, because in asking for wishes, I got things like, I really could stand to replace 5 of my novels. A novel is $8. I hate to ask this, but is there any money for a bookshelf? These were not wishes, these were needs. And these were needs that were going unmet. And there's not a soul in our building, and I think Allison could attest to this, that wants a mansion. We want a place that we can be proud of, that our kids feel welcomed, that I don't have to sit in my office and giggle at how many people go to the wrong door because you can't figure out how to get into Morgan Middle School. It's a little, you know, trickery there. So I'm excited about the possibilities. I get excited every time that we're running a bond because of the possibilities and the potential that's there for us to make our outsides to match our insides. So that's for me.
Feels nicely put.
You're up.
Okay, so that it isn't.
You didn't have to write all that down, that wasn't all.
It's better if I just write it all down and then somebody else can take stuff out. So that it's a great community, for example, the response to the Taylor Bridge fire. And a great community deserves great schools. And in that exercise about asking for wishes, you were appalled to find that there were needs that were unmet, relatively small needs that were unmet. And that in your impression that no teacher wants a mansion, you just need to have an outside to match the inside.
And following that, I got nothing to say. I'm just sitting here and I'm listening.
I wanted to come back to what Jimmy said, or what he thought the plan needs to be, what the plan design needs in it, and the transparent, correct me if I didn't write this down right, Jimmy, no open-ended funding, clear and precise English, excess funds to pay off the debt write-off, etc. I really agree with that so much that I would hope that somehow, I think what I want to say is I hope that we'll build into our process with this group a way to communicate with the community. I mean, where we actually talk about this so that we have a plan for working toward this clear English, which will come out of clear thinking while we're in here. That's probably where I was coming from when I said what will the process be? Like where, in these meetings that come up and we have our dates, what will be the days what will we be doing in each meeting? And so Linda, I know you may have a plan for that already. But I think that I'm concerned about the media and what it seems to me like in the past, because I was really sitting as an outsider, not involved in any of the meetings. I only voted and that was about it. So I would read the paper, and then I would read some flyers that came. You know, anyway, we don't need to repeat on the past, but just I'm interested in how we do present things in the future all the time now, realizing that people are being influenced, because by the time it came to the bond votes, I feel like I guess I speak for myself, was already realizing that there was some confusion that hadn't been dealt with, a lot of confusion. So is there some way that we can influence or participate in what goes out to the public, because that's our part of our process of getting the vote? So I guess it's really a suggestion for future agendas, or Linda, asking for your input on process about what things, I mean, could we take this list of everything we've come up with now and really analyze that for the commonalities so that we come up with some topics that are then, we know, we can agree are the heart of it. You know, because I hear so much commonality. A lot of people are saying the same things. My first one was something about the money and whether it can pass. And I thought, that's just an example of one thing we know will have to be a big action thing. I really agree with Steve about looking at our tax bills and any other things like that that we can brainstorm. I feel that I need to understand better the tax impact. And then that flows into the business about the city, which I don't need to, I mean, I should just be open. It's not that I don't want to be open, it's just that blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, the matter of is what the city's going to pay for, and it's the same people paying for everything. We're all citizens, and that is the crux of a problem.
First, I'll just clarify to make sure I heard what you said, and then I will answer your question about the plan. I hope that we build into the process with the team that we have a clear plan to share, and that will follow as we create clear thinking in the meeting, and that this is about process here. And how the question comes up, how will we present the information that the team creates here to prevent or correct any confusion in the public? Is it fair to say to be vigilant about what maybe the public might be confused about? Is that part of that? Okay, and analyze the lists and or this list of all these sheets and come up with commonalities and look at the realities of our tax impact on all of us, because the city funds, the school district funds, etc., they all come out of the same pot. We're all the ones paying the same ones. Did that capture it?
Yes, I think people are concerned in here about what's the difference between this group and the school board and how that, anyway, those are the things that Paul might put in the newsletter. Anyway, yeah, I think my point is enough for now.
Great. So just to address those questions as the process person, as one of the process people in the room, clearly. Thanks. I always have a plan. So yes, and in my experience, consensus, the process that people have agreed to do in this room is one of the ways, is the strongest way that I know of to reach that, to find that commonality, to get clear thinking, because we will challenge each other, or the team members will challenge each other to clarify, and before everyone, when we call for consensus, which is way down the road. That being said, this can be, I can coordinate with Jeff, we can talk about process in terms of how to turn these things, because this is great, because this is basically what happens. We get all the input, and then we begin to look for commonalities. Now that can be something that I could work on outside of this, or the leadership team for this group, that came up with the agendas and the definitions and such, could work on that as well. then it would all come back to the team to say, okay, is this the way you see it? Because that's how consensus works. Everybody gets clear about that. So, does that help?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
the more you guys summarize it, the more we're gonna be able to move right along.
Yeah, as long as it's very clear to everyone that the summaries are simply an attempt. It's a stab. And I know I can speak for myself when I say, you know, if it's a summary that I came up with and it does not meet the needs of the team, you know, it's out of there or it gets tweaked completely. So if that helps. So I'm hearing that, and I just want to check, is there anyone that would prefer that we do not come up with a summary of these that then can be looked at the next meeting? And I just signed up for something really fun.
We're not quite finished with the second
No,
round
we
of
are not.
comments.
We are not.
Okay.
So we're just responding to Lauren's comments. Yes, thank you. And so Tor, I wouldn't forget about
Oh,
it.
no,
I
that's-
promise I wouldn't forget about it. So I just wanted to capture that so that Jeff and I and probably Paul and whoever else actually is interested in doing this, because now you all are part of the team. So, okay. Cool. Tor.
I want to start by saying I'm just really glad we're at the beginning of this process and not the end, because I really feel like everything I've heard tonight has quadrupled what I already came in feeling like I had to learn in order to be reasonable in even having this conversation. So, and I appreciate that from everybody. I got really excited about what Jimmy was saying about, you know, the goal is 100, we need to go. And I think that speaks a lot to our process about, you know, the saleability of the bond. But I also feel really strongly that, you know, like other people said, there are 10% that won't vote because they won't vote. And I really heard Allison. I think we have to be careful that in going for that last apple on the tree, we don't drop the other dozen or so we've already got in our arms. And that has me kind of concerned, because I'm one of those folks that feels like, you know, if we cut too deeply and the curricular needs aren't being met, then I would be a concerned voter and I might vote the other way. I'm just using myself as an example. Like I said, I've lived here since '08. I don't know how long that is in bonds. But, and I know that the whole idea is to get a fresh perspective, but I think in trying to avoid past mistakes, you know, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And so I'm looking forward to learning about, you know, what these miscommunications were and how we cannot do that, you know, what it was that we need to do that looks different. Oh, I just had one more question. It was for Ernie. Ernie, you used an analogy that I just, again, I'm not making a judgment on, I'm just looking for clarification. You talked about Four Seasons versus a Holiday Inn. You don't want to build a Four Seasons in a community that, well, you repeated. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I think it's just knowing your market. I was using it merely as an analogy of not overbuilding your market, something that the populace isn't going to want to pay for.
Okay.
And that's all I meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so knowing what the constituency is willing to put forth in terms of financial support for the project. Okay.
I mean, I would imagine that this community doesn't want a Motel 6, but maybe a Holiday Inn Express would be just fine.
Okay.
I mean, again, just...
Right. No, I hear what you're saying. No, I just wasn't, yeah. That's it for me.
Okay.
I
Absolutely.
think this person's really important. Maybe she ought to be on this board. You talk about communication and getting it out and being transparent. This little gal over here from the Daily Record, not to embarrass you, I think it's Laura. But I mean, what is it?
Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren. If she's here and communicating with their readers, that's part of the battle right there. You know, I encourage her to keep coming. You're really making our job a lot easier.
I thought she was just stalking me. I didn't know. Every time I talk, it's an ego thing, I admit.
It may not be either or.
Yeah, that's true.
Stand Holiday Inn Express.
Yes.
Okay, so just capturing that analogy.
That leads to a question I have. So could this group put out its own press releases? Because as much as I read all of your articles, and I do, but it's just that there's so much going on here that.
That's what we're going to be doing.
And those would go in the Daily Record as a press release.
Perhaps we could ask Jeff what, or you know what's happening.
This will be going to, we'll be going to every single person in the community.
Yeah. And are there any other like interpretations that could, enhance people finding out this information?
Well, I think she has a point, now that I've been recognized, that to have something coming from this group as distinct from the official school district people could be of value.
And that's even just off the top of my head, whether it could be pros and cons of that, but just the different things. And it seems like a lot of people read the Daily Record. Anyway, I think again, this is just a topic that we really need to brainstorm more about and see how we can support the newsletter in other ways, if we think it's appropriate.
Okay, and I'm just going to ask if Jeff, the communication consultant, has something to say.
I think it'd be a good idea to have someone from this committee to write maybe a press release or an article about the process. And I know there's like an education section. I think it's Saturday. Yeah, it's every Saturday, so it would be a good opportunity. And I think it would, I could write it or someone from the district could write it, but I think someone from here as a member, as a community member could write something like that, which would be very transparent, first of all, because it's your words. I'll be at all these meetings, and so I can report and I can write those press releases. But I think it could add to a lot of our credibility as a group if someone from this community is able to do that. And I could definitely help if you want. English teacher too.
How many spell credibility? It's always that middle.
Could be from a different.
So I just kind of messed up. So that nobody can tell what I did. Okay, so that it, in your opinion, that it would be really good for somebody in the team or someone's in the team work to put out periodic articles on the Saturday education page or whenever. Okay, did I hear in the talking about it, people that might volunteer?
And you think it should be reflective of the entire process? Or it should
be approved by this.
Well, approved by the prior process. What does the group think?
Yes.
Yes.
It should get approved, it should go past the entire group first, and if you're speaking as a member. Is there anyone that would not want it to come in front of the group? Okay, so the group has consensus about that's the process.
Might have some power if each, with your help, if each individual member of the team wrote one of the pieces so that people became aware of the different people on the board or on the team, rather than having it just be from I would say either have the staff do it and we all agreed to it, or if people felt like they could spend some time with staff writing something and put their name with it, it might add to it. And just a thought.
So that if there might be some power if every individual at some point were to write something in collaboration as much as needed with the staff members, and that it would go past the entire team first as well.
Dorothy?
I wonder if it's possible to have some place to collect messages, voice, emails, for people who want to contact but not come. Maybe not even include their name and get their input.
Okay, so someplace to collect input to the team, even anonymously,
Yes.
okay?
I don't want to give them my phone number because I don't want to call them.
I would support you in that, Dorothy. And again, just to speak to elephants, know that if people leave anonymous comments, you will tend to get snarkier comments at best. Just so, and that can be okay as long as the team does not take it personally. Just know that tends to be true. So Darren and I, actually before you guys speak, I have a process issue, which is now 2 minutes after 8. I want to double check and see if the 2 observers, well 3 actually, 3 observers would like to add anything because this is officially the time. Is there anything that Julie or apparently Lauren is your name? or Jeff?
Well, I'll just introduce myself.
Okay.
I'm Lauren Takoris. I'm an education reporter for the Daily Record. I've been living here for about 6 months, and so I wasn't here for the previous 4 bonds. But I'll be at these meetings. I'll be at school board meetings. And if there's anything that you'd like to say, maybe say, I said this during the meeting, but let me clarify it, and you can always call me at the office if you want to talk or anything like that. I'm pretty open, My goal is, I have the readers in mind, the people who aren't at the meeting. So my goal and responsibility is to communicate to people who read the paper what went on here. And yeah, I'm open to talk with anyone.
What was your last name?
Oh, it's Takoris. It's spelled Takors.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's Lauren, L-A-U?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, so you report to those not here. Okay, great. Thanks, Lauren. Anybody else? You guys have anything to add? And I'll get you and then talk.
I just, you guys have a huge role, and I just appreciate everybody being here. I think it speaks volumes that you volunteered to be on a committee such as this. So I think, I guess I can introduce myself as well. I'm Jeff Cochran, and I'm newly hired as the Educational Technology and Community Outreach Coordinator. Previously taught English for 2 years here and 5 years at SELA. So anything that I can do, I'll be at all these meetings as well, but anything that I can do to support you, I'm willing. I have 2 young kids, and Morgan is getting pretty close to them. So I'm like, yeah.
You don't have to.
No, I'll pass.
Okay, you'll pass. Great. Okay. So, so we do have now then 6 minutes according to the agenda. We can continue talking. I believe Darren and then Paul.
In response to what Dorothy said, in the age of social media right now, I propose do we want to have a separate Facebook and Twitter account for this team, separate from the school district, so that, as we've heard, there is some distrust with the school district right now. There is some that we need to overcome. But if people want to see exactly and just focus on what's happening in these meetings, our transparency that we want to achieve, if we can have that place for comments, we can receive input, we can put things on there to what we're doing, where we're at, and garner feedback. Both Facebook and Twitter are, that's, not everybody's on it. I understand that, but there are a lot, and from my position right now, I'm a public information officer. I deal with a lot of the Twitter, a lot of the social media, and that gets information out there so well for that aspect that you're looking for. I just think it might be something we can consider.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Gary. Tor?
Yeah, I'm not asking for like a vote or a motion or anything like that, but I just want to put it out there. Yeah, right. But I just want to put it out there, I have a really strong personal aversion to anonymous comments. I really feel like if you're going to say something, you should be willing to put your name to it. I don't think we live in the Ellensburg society where you have to be afraid of recriminations of the you know, foreign variety, shall we say. So I just feel really strongly about that. I just want that to go on.
Okay, okay. Yes, Bernie.
To second what Tor just said, you know, it's going to be hard enough with 20 people to come to consensus anyway. And I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so no offense taken, I hope. But when we start getting other comments that can distract us, it seems to me like if between the different newsletters we're sending out from the school board, maybe from our group, maybe from the daily record reporting, we're being pretty doggone transparent already. You know, certainly more so than it has been in the past. And I wonder if this will kind of get us off track at all.
Okay, okay. Mom?
Well, I want us to get off track. I think that's where the problem was, is that a group of people decided what they were going to do, sat in a room, came up, you know, reached consensus, and tried to get it through, and it hasn't worked. We need to hear what people are saying. We need that feedback. I really think that would be an error in
Two-way communication.
yeah, because everything you just mentioned, we're sending out, but what are we hearing back? And if it's not their comments, then it should be surveys, it should be, we really need to hear back from people, is my concern.
Okay, so you want us to get off track, and in the sense that, and I recognize that, in the sense that this is not a railroad, this is not a ram going through, this is about really getting down there and getting messy, and then coming back up with something really, really strong, okay? And so we need feedback from that. And so Molly, just a question of clarification, are you, because you were speaking to the other comments, are you saying even anonymous ones?
Oh, I wasn't speaking.
Okay,
I
great,
think
that's-
people should put their name to their comment.
Yeah.
I do.
Yes?
I want to third that position, or whatever it is. I've had experience with blogs with anonymous participants, and it does nothing but create animosity. And people tell me all the time, when I see an anonymous comment, I don't pay any attention to it. And the temptation is really going to be, if an anonymous comment comes in that some of us don't like, then we're going to run the risk of responding to that, and that's going to just feed that person's ego more and more and more.
Thank you, and sorry if you could just hold your comments for just a moment. I forgot, this is a process issue, I forgot, I got a card a little while ago and I didn't read it, so I'll just read this. And instead of writing it out again, stick that right there. So in what specific ways will the new school meet the needs of the 21st century? In what specific ways does the physical plant facilitate learning? Facilitate or influence learning? What specifically do community members seem to object to? What do most not want? I'd like to see a compare-contrast chart, brand new school versus remodel. What does research tell us about these issues? Okay, so there we go. Thank you. Whoever sent that, Steve.
Oh, no, Steve had.
No, I didn't send that. That was
Yeah, somebody, or I don't know, it could have been somebody from here that took it.
Anonymous.
Anonymous. I thought about that as I was reading. I thought, I'm just not going to go there, but good for you for going there. Steve?
I was just going to observe, you don't need any help with following the agenda, but the very next item on the agenda is setting the agenda for next week, or next meeting. And this communications thing and listening thing, it's going to take a lot more discussion, and it would be a big mistake to make any decisions before we do a lot more discussion.
Okay, and yeah, when you started speaking, we had 1 more minute before it was time to set the agenda, so there you are, you're right there. Okay, so, so danger of making.
Well, I would add, I'm a little concerned with confusing and diluting the message if there's information coming from too many different sources. The newspaper, the district, this group itself.
Okay, so there's a danger of making decisions too soon, and also a danger of diluting the message if too many sources. Is that what you're getting at there?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yay, lots and lots of information. So it is now actually 1 minute after, it's 11 minutes after 8. So now comes the time to, I'm not going to go through all the interests actually, since we did have a chance to go back around. Normally I would have gone back through all the interests. We don't have time for that. I'm not sure that it's necessary. If it's okay with everyone, if anybody, unless anybody has a complaint. Just an aside here, generally in consensus, it's best, it's most forthright if I ask, is anyone have a concern about moving forward, rather than the kind of idea that we're going to vote for something. So I will be continuing to ask you, does anyone have a concern if we move forward, or that sort of thing. So does anyone have a concern if we do not go back over the interest at the moment? Meg?
I don't want to go back over them at the moment, but I'm not sure I'm even call them interests, because I'm not sure that's, in fact, one of the things I had thought of to do in the extra time we no longer have was to give an example of pulling the interests out of some of these, which I think is something we should work on in the meantime, or next time.
Okay. So, thank you. In terms of creating the agenda, there are lots of things that are going on. I heard a strong desire to have this information kind of summarized and perhaps moved around to put similar things together, and then brought back to the team to explore further. I would be happy to recommend, a process for going, for proceeding with that, and would work with Jeff and whoever else to help that condensation happen. Is that something that people would like to have at the next agenda then, to revisit this stuff and discuss it more? Does anybody have a concern about doing that? Anyone?
I think if it's not too much to ask, that I would like to see the raw, the notes, if they're going to be transcribed, and maybe just, I don't know, whatever's easiest for you, because of the condensing. I'd like to have the real comments in front of me that you wrote down.
And my thought about that, just to clarify about that, was basically to condense them in terms of putting seemingly similar comments together and pulling out. But the raw comments would actually be there.
Oh, I see.
The text would actually be there. Was that your thought too?
Oh, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, because there's a tremendous amount of information, and part of that information is the words that people used, the exact words that people used. Okay.
Lauren, I have near verbatim notes on the formal parts of the meeting that I would be happy to share with you and everyone else.
Well, maybe.
So there's that.
Does anybody have a concern about doing that?
Just type from those or something.
We need to balance, the amount of work that we have the staff having to do after each of these meetings with the desire and need to have some continuity of information.
Is that something you'd be willing to type up, or is that something you'd be able to give to Jeff to type up? I'm not sure what you're offering, so I just want to make sure.
I am offering pictures of the pages of my notes.
You have good handwriting?
And
Readable handwriting?
call me anytime with questions.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. So Jeff will take care of that as well. Okay. I would also very strongly recommend that we include in the agenda for next week, the next meeting is next week on Wednesday, that further clarification of the ground rules. I mean, this is wonderful because people are very open and there's already some common ground or commonalities that are bouncing back and forth. And this is a good day. The ground rules are for the bad days, frankly. So that when we're not getting along, when we're coming up to the itchy bits, that's when the ground rules are really important. So I would encourage us to take time at the next meeting to really clarify the ground rules. Because what I gave you was basically as I mentioned, ground rules light. And we need to get down beyond those and say, okay, these are the principles behind these, rather than don't just interrupt, turn off your cell phones, all that sort of thing. Those are important, and there's more underneath that. Are there any objections to addressing that? No. Okay. Any objections to addressing that, including that at the beginning or near the beginning of the agenda? Okay. Okay, that's great. And then, of course, we'll need to set the agenda for the 16th at the next meeting as well. So unless there are objections, I will just always include that as part of the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, did you have another thing?
Well, one of the things that I think I'm taking away from tonight is there's a strong desire to sort of articulate our plan to get to August 30th and then October 15th. So including things like, if we're going to hear from the architects, maybe one of the things we could do next week is sort of create an outline of what's going to be happening at the meeting, so that if Paul needs to contact people to come and speak, or if somebody needs to have resources pulled together, that there's time to do that, and then we sort of we can stay on track, maybe, with the opportunity to get off track too.
That was good. Okay, is there someone that would like to make a first stab, draw the first line, as it were, for that timeline, or some people that would work together to do that?
Actually, I'm not real clear on what our product is supposed to be.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if people know what one of the things I think would be helpful is what's available to us, or what are particular questions that people maybe have, like, is having the architects here beneficial? Is that something we need to hear from?
Eventually, I think, for sure.
And maybe that's something that we can figure out, sort of, what is the product that needs to be done by August 30th? And then work backwards from that.
What you're addressing right now is what I'm asking about too, is just how do we determine, how will we come to what the topics are, so that we get into the content, because we can't get into the content of everything.
Okay. In terms of addressing this at the next meeting, I would be very surprised if we'd be able to get, just realistically, if we'd be able to get to, what's available to us and what's, a final product, I should say. It's something that could be explored, but perhaps there could be a product next year, but perhaps not. Okay, so just to say
I guess it would just going back to the charge. I mean, it's talking about examining the past work and reviewing the WSU survey. So it seems like we just need to say these are the things what that means.
Yeah.
And get that laid out.
Yeah. Okay, so looking at the charge for ideas was actually one of the things that, now I saw a couple hands. Dorothy, okay, thank you.
I don't know how we can talk to the architect about what we have in mind or what they have in mind, whether it would do any good, until we have more of an idea of what we have in mind.
Yeah.
So that included in the timeline would need to be concerns about when the team would be able to ask questions.
Be prepared
to ask questions. Okay. So that would be part of the timeline, okay? And I got you there. Oh, it was Jimmy? Okay, was that before Lauren?
I think she was next.
This is a really quick point, is that I went to the presentations to the one of the architectural firm that was chosen. So in terms of reviewing what's happened already, I wonder if that is on, is that videotaped, that people could watch that, because that would bring people up to speed as to what's happened in the past. So the firm did a presentation of what they would do, and it has a lot of, it has, you know, renderings and everything in it. And then they were chosen. So that's a question for whether that videotape is available.
Okay, so the question is whether that videotape would be available to the team so that people that were not at that presentation could check that out. So Jimmy?
At some point in time, we are going to need to determine what our goal or goal is or goals are. If we don't know where we're going, how in the world will we ever know if we got there? So we're going to have some goals, we're going to have some objectives, and that all fits within a timeline. But talking about a timeline until we know where we're going, what we want to do seems to be, I mean, we can put those out there, but some of those will be long-term goals, some will be short-term goals, or intermediate along the way. So I think we had an awful lot of information tonight that could be the basis for some goal setting.
So this would be something that, that the team could discuss more about, okay, how do we set those goals? What's the, you know, what would be, that would be part of the timeline, is discussing and coming to consensus on goals, on objectives, and then what information the team would need. Is that what you're, okay, Tor, thank you.
Yeah, well, and exactly what Jimmy's saying and tying in with, I'm sorry, what's your name? No, not Michelle. I know Michelle. So tying in what he said, I think, you know, before we set goals, we have to know what's our product, what's our expected product, what are we coming up with here at the end, so that we know what we're aiming for with the goals. And then once we set the goals, then we can start a process to move towards those. That's where I get a little confused. Just what are they looking for? They're a report, a money figure? Are they looking for a dollar figure? You know,
They being?
The school board.
Okay.
The people giving us the charge.
Okay.
Right.
What's the deliverable?
Right. And then just as a follow-up to that and not associated with that, I may be the only person in this room that's letting his OCD run away with him, and if I am, but I would love to have more conversation about what this seems to be our framework in which we're talking, this consensus, this idea of consensus. And if I'm the only one, I'm totally happy to meet with you separately and have that conversation, and I don't want to bring anybody down or bore anybody. It's just, I'm hung up on it a little bit, so.
On consensus?
Yes.
There's a great Wikipedia entry on consensus.
Okay, so that you're requesting that added to the agenda is some kind of discussion about consensus and how that would actually work in this team. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'll be absolutely completely honest. How realistic is it? I have a hard time, because it's new to me, I'm totally admitting that, but I have a hard time seeing the reality, so I just want to know more.
Okay.
Was that mamby-pamby enough?
Okay, great. So that you would like to really get down and dirty about what consensus is. Is it realistic?
Right.
What could it look like?
That's right. And if I'm the only one, then please.
I don't perceive that you're the only one. Ernie, did you have something to state to
I
that?
love where he's going, if I'm reading you correctly, let alone Jimmy as well, with goals. You know, we're all tippy-toeing around in trying to be so considerate to each other. And it seems like we go round and round and round, and finally we get really close to the main subject. And I'd like to suggest that this is a lot simpler than we're making it. You know, I mean, everyone probably realizes if we could get what we really want for $20 million, it would pass. And there's also a pretty good idea that if you're trying to get everything you want for $50 million, it's not going to pass, and it's a waste of our time. Reason-wise, it isn't mine. And I'd like to find out what that number is, because that's the bottom line of this whole deal. What is that number that people really kind of have a perception of where we're going? You know, or what range? I mean, I always found it's nice to have a range that we kind of have some wiggle room.
Did you mean the
But-
total cost of the project?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's something you'd like to address in the next meeting?
Well, if everyone else would. I mean, otherwise, it just kind of seems like tippy-toe around, tippy-toe around. I mean, we can make this thing go on for 2 years if we want, but it's really a lot to, yeah. It really is, if people are willing to get to the subject, it can be a lot simpler than maybe some people might make it.
Okay, so that for you, it's very simple. It's let's address as a team the bottom line. What is the range of something?
Just see where we are, see how far apart we are.
So a round robin perhaps in terms of what money would, what people think would be the range that would be acceptable?
Yeah.
Is that what
I think everything's about money unless we're just gonna try to give them the same package that we had before and keep throwing the same stuff out there and hope we get more votes.
So I'm understanding for the process then, for getting those numbers, and we have 3 minutes, I'm aware of the time because we will end at 8:30 as promised, that you would like a round robin. Would that be a process that would work to have people throw numbers out? Is that what you had in mind?
Yeah, just a gut feel, just see where we are.
Okay, so a round robin. Are there any, Molly?
Well, I just have to say, I mean, I guess having been on the strategic committee, this is exactly what happened very early in our process. Someone said, hey, we're all just mamby-pambying around here. We all pretty much, we had 2 other meetings where we had actually gotten more information than we have at this particular one. But we all know where we are. Let's just go around the table and ask everyone. Come on, let's just, unzip. Let's tell what we're doing, and went around the table and that's when all discussion stopped. Because now people had they were set where they were, and so I really would say that's not a good idea at this point. We really need to start getting some information before we.
Okay, and this is great because this is where things really are starting to get going, and we have 3 minutes. This kind of a doorknob issue thing here, if anybody knows what that means. But, okay, Dorothy first, and then, and being aware that we will finish this conversation in 2 minutes.
Just briefly, we can communicate between us and find out what we want. But we need to communicate and get the communication coming from the public. There's the one that's doing the voting. If they're not for it, they're not going to vote for it.
Okay.
And I think that the cost is secondary. I know I hate to say that, but we can't just put a cost out there because we don't know what that is for. I think it's mainly, a lot of people objected to what the end product would be. We got to know what we're after, exactly we're getting, and then get a number.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is basically some objection to going around, so there's not consensus about doing that. And so, and that's absolutely perfect, because that's what we need to do. Because that's about consensus. It's about saying these things and saying, yes, this is what I would like, and also having people say, I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, and we don't move forward unless, but we keep things in the parking lot. But we don't move forward unless there is consensus about something.
Universal consensus?
Universal, like 100%.
Okay.
And I can go, I won't today, but I can go into my experience with working with consensus, and I also have concerns about it, but in this context, I do not have concerns about it. It's a lot of work, it takes time, and in my opinion, it's necessary, or I would not be sitting here. Okay, and we can talk about that more, Michelle.
I think that one of the things that we need to, at some point, address is if we have these potential decision-making criteria that we're going to weigh possible solutions against, I think we need to have a really clear understanding and agreement on what those mean. What does it mean to have, what are we talking about with school safety? What are we talking about with site size and organization? What is that? And are there other things that aren't on that list that need to be addressed? Because if we don't know what the measure is, doesn't matter what we come up with, we've got to have some agreement on those things, so hopefully that's something we can look into the next several.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And I will have to say, it is 8:30. We need to adjourn the meeting, the team meeting. Wonderful time. Keep these comments, hold these thoughts, bring them back up.
Please come get a book.
And we will come up with an agenda, and so you will see that it is not just empty to approve that agenda.
If we're unavailable for a particular meeting,